Get ready for a massive update because controversial welterweight Colby Covington is officially hanging up his gloves. We break down everything you need to know about Colby Covington's retirement announcement from the UFC and what this means for his future in the MMA world. Finally, we bring you the latest MMA news roundup, including today's in 5 trivia game. So make sure you stick around and subscribe right now for the newest episode of Newsmakers. Controversial UFC veteran Colby Covington has officially announced his retirement from mixed martial arts. Multiple outlets have confirmed that Covington informed the UFC of his decision, which was subsequently reflected on the promotion's official website listing him as retired. Covington, known for his polarizing presence during his time in the organization, appears to be concluding his career in MMA. While social media platforms typically do not influence contractual negotiations, Covington has maintained an active schedule outside of the UFC. He remains engaged with the wrestling organization Real American Freestyle, where he has continued to compete. Earlier this year, Covington secured victories over Luke Rockhold and Dylan Dannies. His next scheduled bout with RAF will be against Chris Weidman at RAF 9 on May 30. In a recent interview, the former junior college national champion from Iowa Central Community College offered insight into his career trajectory. PokerStars' Big Game on Tour has returned, launching its 3rd season with a high-stakes showdown featuring UFC fighter Sean O'Malley against heavyweights Jason Kuhn, Matt Berkey, and Sean Deeb. The action, set at $100/$200 stakes with frequent straddles, promised an epic clash, and the participants delivered. While Randy 3-Coin, Sadler, and loose cannon Andy Taylor faced challenges, neither showed any sign of yielding to the formidable competition. Andy Taylor, holding a $50,000 stake from PokerStars, immediately engaged with O'Malley, mixing it up early in the hand. The tension escalated in the second hand when Sean Deeb held a $400 straddle, and O'Malley raised to $1,700 from the cutoff. When the action folded to Taylor in the big blind, he committed an additional $1,500, while Deeb discarded his straddle. On the flop, both players connected. O'Malley hit 2 pair, and Taylor secured an open-ended straight draw. The pivotal moment arrived when O'Malley opted to check back, which proved disastrous as the turn card completed the runout, giving Taylor the nut straight. Despite another check from O'Malley, he escalated the pot by firing $1,500 into a $4,100 pot, which Taylor countered with a raise to $5,000. O'Malley made the call, only to face a challenging river decision. After deliberation, Taylor bet $9,400 into the $14,100 pot. O'Malley, though clearly unhappy with the situation, ultimately called, only to face unfavorable news. The Big Game on Tour is available to watch every Sunday on the PokerStars YouTube channel. UFC boss Dana White addressed the intersection of his business, the sport, and current political events ahead of an upcoming event at the White House on June 14th. Speaking with Steve Inskeep on the Newsmakers program, White reflected on the evolution of the UFC, contrasting its humble beginnings with its current status as a multi-billion-dollar enterprise. White noted that the sport has shed its negative stigma, evolving from what John McCain once termed human cockfighting to a high-profile event on the South Lawn of the White House, drawing massive crowds. White detailed the logistical challenges of staging such an event, citing concerns over weather, bugs, and other variables, despite the massive turnout. He mentioned that the president's involvement in the details was limited, with Ivanka Trump serving as the initial point person. White also discussed the fighter lineup, highlighting the backgrounds of top contenders like lightweight champion Ilia Topuria, who comes from a refugee family in Georgia, and challenger Justin Gaethje. White framed these stories as representative of the broader narrative of combat sports, where individuals from disadvantaged or immigrant backgrounds use the sport to fight for their way. He recalled early UFC days, noting that fighters like Chuck Liddell and Matt Hughes brought diverse, relatable stories beyond traditional boxing. On the topic of identity, White asserted that the UFC is a reflection of the individual, stating that he sells who you are and where you come from. He emphasized that the sport is fundamentally about hard work, dedication, and self-belief, rather than aggression, aligning it more closely with martial arts principles focused on self-control and defense. When pressed about the relationship between the sport and politics, White acknowledged that the president is a fight fan, citing his past involvement in fight promotions. He discussed how the UFC's initial struggle for mainstream acceptance, being barred from pay-per-view, led to unconventional partnerships, including an invitation from Trump to their first fights. White suggested that the sport embodies the will to win and overcome, qualities he sees in the president, who he describes as one of the toughest and most resilient individuals he has met. Addressing the demographic shift, White commented on the changing political landscape, noting that while many young men once backed Trump, current polling suggests lower approval. He attributed this shift to feelings of displacement during the COVID-19 era. White maintained a stance of nonpartisanship, stating he doesn't hate anyone based on politics, viewing himself as being in the middle. He cautioned against judging political figures prematurely, advising listeners to wait until a full term is complete to assess performance. Finally, White addressed concerns regarding fighter health, specifically brain injuries like CTE. He stressed that the UFC prioritizes health and safety, noting a 30-year history without a death or serious injury, supported by advanced brain monitoring studies with the Cleveland Clinic. He concluded by reiterating that the sport's core message is about human resilience and the universal nature of fighting, regardless of background, positioning the event as a celebration of America's immigrant roots. The SB Nation MMA in 5 daily trivia game is live, challenging fans to identify a UFC fighter based on 5 clues and the fewest guesses possible. The game, which runs daily, encourages community engagement as participants share their results and feedback via comments and a dedicated Google form. The latest update, dated May 19, 2026, serves as a daily roundup of the latest news and results from the UFC and the broader MMA landscape. The platform is maintained by Vox Media, LLC, with copyright reserved for 2026. For those seeking support regarding gambling issues, resources are provided, including contact information for Gambling Helpline MA.org and other support lines.